Throughout history, every great empire has relied on a defining weapon to secure its dominance. For the British Empire, that weapon was naval supremacy. Fleets that ruled the oceans and carried influence across distant continents. For the Mongol Empire, it was the unmatched speed and fearsome efficiency of their mounted warriors, conquering vast lands with lightning precision. But for the United States, the most powerful tool is not found on the battlefield. It is not housed in military bases or deployed through warfare. Its ultimate weapon is financial, the US dollar. Unlike missiles, fighter jets, or tanks, which are easily seen and measured, the dollar moves quietly through the world. It does not roar through skies or roll across borders, yet it holds the power to determine the fate of nations. It directs the flow of trade, bends economies to political will, and reshapes global systems from behind the scenes. Its influence travels faster than any army and lasts longer than any war, giving it a level of control unmatched by any weapon humanity has ever created. The story of the dollar begins quietly in 1792 with the Coinage Act, which established the US dollar as the official currency of a young nation. At first, its value was backed by both silver and gold, offering a level of stability that was rare at a time when most governments issued paper money without real support. For many years, the dollar circulated mainly within the United States, used for domestic trade. Yet even then, the roots of global dominance were already being planted in ways the founders could not have imagined. The true transformation of the dollar from a national currency into a global force did not happen in Congress, but on the world stage. After World War II, Europe and Asia lay devastated. Economies were shattered, governments weakened, and infrastructure destroyed. The United States, however, emerged as the strongest industrial and financial power in the world. Its economy stood firm, untouched by war. In 1944, leaders from 44 Allied nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design a new international economic system. This is where the dollar became the world's reserve currency. Other nations tied their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar itself was linked to gold at $35 an ounce. For the first time in history, a single currency became the foundation of global finance. This gave one nation unmatched economic power. Being the reserve currency meant that governments and central banks around the world would keep large amounts of dollars to support trade and economic stability. The system reinforced itself. The world needed dollars, and as demand grew, the dollar's influence expanded. A financial empire was built not on armies, but on trust, liquidity, and dependence. Unlike weapons that can be destroyed, the dollar's strength comes from being everywhere at once. It forms the foundation of global commerce and is accepted by billions each day. The dollar's power is especially clear in global trade. Almost all major commodities, including oil, wheat, gold, and copper, are priced in dollars. Any country wishing to trade across borders must first obtain dollars. This constant demand allows the United States to guide money flow, influence interest rates, and direct global trade with unmatched precision. But the dollar is not just a tool of trade. It is also a weapon of political influence. By controlling access to dollar-based systems, the United States can impose sanctions, restrict transactions, and pressure governments without firing a single shot. Nations such as Iran and North Korea have felt this impact strongly. By being cut off from dollar networks, they struggle to import critical goods, sell resources, and engage in international business. This is financial warfare, quiet, invisible, yet devastating. Modern conflict is no longer fought only on battlefields. In today's connected world, being cut off economically can damage a nation just as severely as military force. This power has been demonstrated repeatedly. After Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, Strong financial sanctions froze assets and blocked oil sales. The economy collapsed, showing how money can accomplish what weapons cannot. Likewise, when Iran faced sanctions from 2018 to 2020, its ability to trade shrank dramatically. In 2022, after Russia entered Ukraine, restrictions on its access to dollar systems disrupted its economy once again. These events show that control over currency can change outcomes faster than tanks or missiles. The mechanics behind this dominance are simple but powerful. About 60% of global currency reserves are held in dollars. Businesses and governments borrow in dollars, creating long-term reliance. Global commodities are priced in dollars, forcing nations to keep reserves and conduct transactions using it. In effect, the world runs on dollars. Control of the dollar means control over trade, credit, and financial stability. This is a type of influence that few empires in history have ever achieved. This system is strengthened by international organizations. Through major financial institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, the United States can shape policies across nations. By controlling access to capital, it can guide decision-making beyond its borders. The dollar is not merely currency, it is authority, exercised quietly but powerfully. Still, the dollar is not invincible. Countries like China and Russia have sought alternatives by trading in local currencies and forming new financial systems. Emerging digital currencies and blockchain technologies also present possible challenges. Yet despite these efforts, the dollar remains deeply rooted in global finance. It continues to dominate trade, reserves, and debt payments. The dollar's true strength rests on belief. It depends on trust in its value, its stability, and the institutions that manage it. Confidence is the fuel that powers the entire system. If that confidence weakens, the entire structure shakes. Markets fall, economies falter, and the world feels the impact. The history of the dollar reveals something important. Money is not just a way to buy things. It is a means of power, influence, and control. By commanding the world's dominant currency, the United States can shape events without invading nations. It can guide outcomes through trust rather than force. This invisible power makes the dollar one of the most influential tools ever created. However, global dependence on one currency also creates risk. Any failure in management, loss of trust, or instability could send shockwaves across the entire world. That balance between power and vulnerability defines the modern financial system. For investors, citizens, and nations alike, understanding the role of the dollar is essential. Economics often shapes events more deeply than warfare. By examining how the dollar rose, how it is used, and how nations depend on it, we understand global politics more clearly. In the end, the dollar is more than money. It is influence. It is leverage. It is power. It can collapse economies, determine policy, and shape trade without a single soldier crossing borders. In today's world, finance often holds more weight than firepower. And those who control currency often shape history. If you want to understand how money rules the modern world, this is the story that matters. Subscribe for more insight into financial history, economic strategy, and the forces that quietly govern power. Because history does not only repeat, it prepares the future.